Hi there, my name is Jessica Renfro, and today I'm going to be going over my district's acceptable use policy for students. Before I get into any improvements or suggestions that I would make, I want to give just a little bit of a background for my district and my school in particular. Currently, I teach in a 345 building. Within my building, we have iPads, we have MacBooks, we have Chromebooks, and then we have the good old desktop computers still. So there's quite a bit of technology in my building, and unfortunately, it all kind of depends on what grade you are as far as which kind of device you're going to be working with. The third grade and the fourth grade currently are one-to-one with iPads. The way that we have this set up is each student is assigned an iPad, and as they're traveling between classes for subjects, they take their iPads with them. Fifth grade, on the other hand, they are working with Chromebooks, and Chromebooks stay within the classroom. So for instance, if a student is going from social studies to science, they're working with Chromebooks, however, they are not bringing those Chromebooks with them. So I did put a couple things into the acceptable use policy as far as privacy and being very careful about logging in and logging out to protect the student's privacy as well. So when we looked at acceptable use policies for this week, I read through a couple of the different articles, and I've done some research kind of on my own, just comparing our acceptable use policy to neighboring districts as well, just to get a good idea as far as where my district stood. After kind of reading the one-to-one essentials guidelines with acceptable use policies, I felt pretty confident in my school district's policy itself. I really didn't see too many things that I wanted to change or adjust. I felt like there was a lot covered, but really that it was done in a way that it wasn't kind of difficult to read or overwhelming. It was the right size, I felt. As we were going through, I'll just kind of read through what my school district has, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the changes that I've made. Really, with this first kind of opening statement, I've noticed that in just about every school district I've looked at, they've had this kind of opening statement as far as why they have an acceptable use policy in place for technology, and I think it's great. With Amherst in particular, I really liked it. There were some parts that I felt were just a little wordy and had some run-on sentences, so really it's mostly a grammatical correction in this top paragraph where you see red. As they're going through, really this top paragraph just talks about the fact that 21st century digital learning environment is pretty much a big part of our educational philosophy, and that's something that we're really working on and something that we are encouraging for not just our students but also our staff members and our teachers, just to kind of help us with the community as well and with parental support. It says here, in the sentence that I corrected, the school district will provide tools, resources, and content necessary to promote critical thinking skills and enhance problem-solving strategies while making content engaging, relevant, and meaningful to teachers and students. When looking at this is a long sentence, and I felt like it was kind of running on. I felt like it needed a conjunction just added in here and a pause to kind of help put everything together. So that's the only thing I changed there. And as I mentioned, that was pretty much just grammatical, nothing really to do with the idea or the content of it. I really like the way that my district wrote this kind of introductory paragraph. For the next one, it says the district will encourage educational technology in all content areas while collaborating and communicating with the school community. Before I changed the word encourage, the word that was there was enable. The district will enable education technology in all content areas. I really felt that encouraged had a little bit more of a positive connotation to the word, and I felt like this was something that we needed to kind of put a positive spin on. So that's why I just chose a different word instead of enable there. Moving forward, as you see, my school district has kind of split up their acceptable use policy into 3 categories. The first one is called acceptable use, the second is network etiquette, and the final category is consequences. So these are kind of the 3 main parts to it, and then to kind of wrap it up, we have the district limitations of liability, and then I added a couple of things that I'll get to at the bottom there. So when we're looking at the acceptable use, the top part here, it's just the use of the internet and tools. and it really just being in support of our educational objectives within the school district. So for the first point, it says students will only use district-assigned passwords to log into the internet and devices. In our school district, we assign students their own Google usernames and passwords, and that's how they can access quite a few different things. They're able to get onto Google Classroom and obviously their Google Drive. In addition, we also have it for different programming opportunities as well. I added, since we do have so many different devices in the school district, I did add students must also protect their privacy by logging out of classroom devices at the conclusion of the class period if applicable. I know that this is something that our 5th graders run into. I know at the junior high they are sharing Chromebooks as well. That's not assigned to a teacher, so 7th grade might have Chromebooks for the day and then 8th grade will have it the following day. So we really wanted to put some kind of clause in there reminding students that it is their responsibility to protect their privacy by being aware of when they are logging in and logging out of devices, since they are not assigned by student. For the next one, for B, students are prohibited to view, use, or copy passwords, data, or networks in which they are not authorized. Students are not allowed to use other people's passwords. Transmission of any material in violation of a U.S. or state regulation is prohibited, such as copyrighted material or threatening of obscene material. Use of approved personal, non-disruptive devices to enhance learning in the classroom will be pursued when deemed appropriate at each school building and at the teacher's discretion. And then finally, I did add kind of a clause at the bottom, which is kind of simple, but I was surprised that my school didn't have this added in already. The fact that students are to use school devices and networks only for educational purposes at the discretion of their educational team or teacher. I've come to find that each teacher and each team have their own expectations on how to use technology in the classroom. Some use technology way more than others, but I felt that it needed to be really just kind of outlined and spoken that this is strictly for educational purposes. That's why we have these devices. That's the whole reason why we're utilizing them within the classroom. Finally, down below for network etiquette, I don't think I changed anything in that one. I felt pretty satisfied with what my district had. As for network etiquette, students are expected to abide by generally accepted rules of etiquette while utilizing technology. That includes the use of appropriate language. Do not use the network in a way that will disrupt others. District email is private to the user, however, the district has full access to school email. Notify an adult if you encounter materials that violate the appropriate use. Users will not engage in any illegal activity. Students will not use devices to cheat or plagiarize. Users will respect copyrighted laws and licensing agreements pertaining to materials entered into and obtained via the internet and other electronic resources. I like the part here where they start kind of touching on cyberbullying, because that's something that needs to be said, especially with these digital resources. Cyberbullying, when kids bully, embarrass, threaten, or harass others using any interactive technology, will not be tolerated. And finally, students will not maliciously attempt to harm, deface, or destroy any part of district or personal technology resources. I think the district had a really nice balance as far as being able to not just outline the things that you shouldn't do with the technology. I felt like they did a good job as well of outlining some of the things that are expected with this technology. So I thought that was pretty good. Finally, consequences. So if you do choose to violate anything on our acceptable use policy, this is some of the things that could happen. Any user violating this agreement or applicable state and federal laws or posted classroom and district rules is subject to loss of privileges, and any other appropriate district disciplinary action will be taken. For point A, the Amherst schools will cooperate fully with local, state, or federal officials in any investigation concerning or relating to any illegal activities. Part B, disciplinary actions will be tailored to meet specific concerns related to the violation and to assist the student in gaining the steps necessary to behaving appropriately while using technologies. And then finally, point C, student consequences of violations may include, but are not limited to, temporary loss of computer access, revocation of computer access, possible legal action and/or consequences in relation to the building, parent-student code of conduct. So I'm happy that they did talk and kind of touch here on our code of conduct or handbook. So they are pertaining to kind of another resource that they could go to, a reference source to help them here. I did also like that we didn't pigeonhole ourselves into kind of like this is how we handle every single violation. I like that they mentioned that disciplinary actions are going to be tailored to kind of meet the specific concerns of the violation. I thought that was really smart as well for the district. And then finally, the last kind of category is the district limitation of liability. Amherst School District makes no warranties of any kind, whether expressed or implied, for the service it is providing. The district assumes no responsibility or liability for any damages a user may suffer. The district will not be responsible for the accuracy or quality of information obtained through its services. The district will not be responsible for financial obligations arising through the misuse or unauthorized use of district or personal technologies. I did also think it was important to put down a review category as far as when the policy was last reviewed, because I know when I was reading the guidelines one-to-one, they talked a little bit about how often you would have some kind of council or a technology team that would review it and make sure that it's updated. And then obviously a ratification too. So the last time that it was ratified or changed or adjusted and kind of approved by the Board of Education. So I have that here, and then down below obviously it should be very important always to have the student name and the parent signature as well. The only thing that I would maybe include as well is when they have the parent signature, and I thought I did that, I apologize. I would also make sure that you have a line for a student signature, because really a student should be on board with all of this as well. So I'll include that. Outside of it, like I said, I was pretty pleased with my school district's acceptable use policy. I thought they did a really nice job of kind of covering their backs, but also making sure that they not only focused on all of the negatives and the things that you aren't allowed to do with the technology. I thought they did a good job of outlining some of the ways that you could use the technology as well. So yeah, I felt like we did a pretty good job overall. Thanks guys for following along and listening. I hope you have a great rest of your night.